Hello lovelies, so this video is kind of my birthday dress slash spring dress for this year, sort of. This is a, I'll show you the pattern. This is Butterick B6018, and it is one of their 1950s reprint patterns. I really think this dress is cute. It has an almost square sweetheart neck style. It's very interesting. I will say I've done this dress once before, but I picked the wrong fabric. It was one of my first apparel pieces, so I didn't finish any of the seams, so guess what happened? The fabric split. Not the seam. The seam was good. The fabric itself, I think I cut too close to the edge and it split on me. As in, it separated itself from the interweavings, and the dress was no good because the entire stomach area was just kind of disintegrating. But I didn't know anything about fabric at that point. I didn't know anything about seam finishes. This was literally, I think, my second attempt at making a piece of clothing that would fit me. I made it a size too small. I could barely squeeze in. I could barely do up the zipper. I picked the wrong fabric, so this is redemption. But anyway, this pattern does have a side seam. So part of what I was doing with this dress was figuring out how to stick pockets in it because I like pockets in my clothing. But the description of this is, dress has raised, excuse me. Dress has raised neckline variations, fitted bodice, button trim, raised waist, fitted and flared skirt with princess seams, side zipper, and short sleeves. Option A has full back lapels and shaped cuffs. I will be doing the version A with the lapels and turned back cuffs at some point. Not yet, but at some point. I will probably do that in straight black. I did make the decision when I was doing this variation to do it without the button front because of how the fabric is that I chose. I did not like the button detail. I did have buttons picked out. I did have them. They were given to me as a gift. I made the bodice and I realized that I accidentally pattern matched. The fabric I chose was a crinkle rayon from Joann's, and I have the main dress right here. So I'll show you the fabric. But it is a really pretty print. It's like a sage green with a green floral detail on top. And it is a very nice fabric. Now the thing is, I've worked with this crinkle rayon before, and I know that when you wash it, it shrinks. So I did go with a size bigger than I probably should have, but I think it suits it. The other thing I did was, because I didn't want to worry about the seam finishes of the bodice, and I knew that I was going to be French seaming the inside of the skirt, I went and fully lined the bodice. So during this video, it is a little bit different style. I only show what I really changed about the pattern. So I show that I will French seam the skirt, but I also only show the construction of the bodice with the lining instead. I also, because I was being kind of, how do you put it when you're trying to make sure that you finish everything right this time? Oh, perfectionist. I'm kind of being a little bit of perfectionist, but I even went through and folded the seam allowance in on the arm side and then whip stitched around that. I whip stitched around the edge of the zipper to make sure that fabric didn't unravel. One of the things I've started doing is reading through the instructions before I even start cutting the dress, or pants or whatever I'm making, but this time I went through and I double checked how these seams are supposed to be pressed. And in this one, it specifically states when you sew the bodice to the skirt, the seam needs to be pushed up. So what I made the decision was, because I knew I was going to fully line this, and I didn't want to have to worry about, seams unraveling on me, because they would do that, and I know they would. I did this. And it's actually a good thing, because I fully lined the bodice and I knew the skirt was going to be pushed up. I went through and I sewed a guideline on the lining fabric, 5/8 of an inch, which is the seam allowance, up, and then I ironed it, so that when I went through after I'd sewn the bodice to the skirt, I could just slip stitch the lining to the skirt, which means the whole bodice is fully lined. There are no raw edges there. I ended up French seaming the sleeves. I hand stitched the hem of the arm, the sleeve here, as well as the bottom of the skirt. One of the other tricks I figured out was that I can't remember what creator did it, but she read a trick in a vintage manual where if you hang the skirt pieces before you sew them, you can use the skirt pattern and just cut off the excess. So I did that this time. It worked, mostly. It still kind of is a little bit drapey. I have a feeling if I was wearing it with even a small petticoat, it would fluff out enough that you wouldn't really be able to tell. Speaking of which, I need to get a petticoat at some point. This dress is great for spring, like late spring when it's starting to warm up, summer wear, and fall. It is a little bit more dressy than what I usually wear, but it's a full outfit. I can dress it up, dress it down, any style I want. I can wear it with flats, I can wear it with these really cute, like, wedge heels I got. The fabric itself is really nice. It's really breathable. It does have a little bit of a raised waistline. When it's wearing it, sits almost directly underneath my bust, which is nice. It does kind of remind me of Regency wear, so just keep that in mind if you're going to do this dress. I do think next time I do this dress, I will end up going a size down, because I ended up having to take a 1/2 inch in on both side seams to make sure that it wouldn't be gaping. I figure if I just take it down a little bit and make sure that I'm sewing all the seams right, that I won't have to worry about them. I do think that next time I will fully line the bodice again, because that really works, and it works well. This cotton I used is a very, very sheer cotton. If I were going to be making a blouse out of it, I would have to double it up anyway. So doing it this way makes it so that I'm very comfortable in this dress. I do not fear having to wear camisole under it. I do anyway. With the skirt, however, I do feel on a really bright day I might have to wear a little bit of a thicker slip underneath, because it is a little bit sheer. It's not bad, it's just a little bit sheer. It's a lightweight woven fabric. It's a little bit sheer. Other than that, I would recommend this pattern. This is a little bit long-winded, but I'm kind of doing the opening and closing at the same time. I would recommend this pattern. I would recommend doing a bodice mock-up if you haven't done this style of dress before, simply because it does tend to run with a lot of positive ease, so you may need to manipulate the darts or manipulate the seam allowances depending on your size and shape. I originally went with, I think it was a size 18, so next time I think I'll probably have to go with a 16 or smaller, just depending on which one I do. I think that's everything. If you have any comments, questions, feel free to list those down below. I do show the changes I made in this bodice and some of the seam allowance. At the end of the video, you will see me wearing the dress, so if you want to see that, feel free to skip ahead. It'll probably be the last 30 seconds or so. But yes, feel free to leave comments, questions down below. I hope you like it. Please subscribe. I am trying to make this a working channel, which is why I'm trying to do an upload every week. But yes, so I will see you all next time. And that's a wrap for this intro. Have a good day. Bye. Alright, so here is the lining I'm using. Like I said, it's a very sheer cotton fabric. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It was just in my stash. It was a leftover of a leftover of a leftover. But here I am assembling it like I would assemble the bodice. So I am putting in the darts of the lower bust and the side bust. And then I will also at some point stitch the facing to this by simply folding down the edge, and then I'm not sure how I originally finished it, but then I went and I folded down the non-edged side and stitched as close to the edge that I just made as possible, so that's on the inside of the fabric. I then basted around the notched edge of this facing, and yeah, I basted down when I folded down the unnotched edge, I basted that down, and then I basted the whole thing down, except I stitched along that edge to make sure it was a finished piece like that. And then once I had those done, I continued assembling it like I would the exterior of the bodice, and made sure to match the notches and the circle so that I could get the finish really nice. Once that is pinned and sewn, then I will do the same thing to the back piece, as in sew that up and put the darts in and everything. Here I am, putting in darts using my pin method, which I still really glad I figured out. So once those darts are in, as in marked, lines drawn, so I have a sewing guide, and then sewn down, I will press them. Always press everything you've sewn, even if it's just basting, because it'll help. Once that is sewn and pressed, then I will attach the front and back, I believe, at the shoulders, because this is a side zipper dress. Once it is, as you can see, I'm marking. So yes, I pull out the pins, and then I use my clear ruler to line up the notches, or the marks, so that I get a nice, clear, I do like these 1950s dress and blouse designs because they do have that shoulder dart, which helps curve over the shoulders instead of quite a lot of shirts patterns nowadays are just very boxy and don't have that dart, and I kind of like having the dart, but that's me. So yes, once that's done, I make sure to press the darts, I can't remember if it's to the center or out to the center. Basically what you do is you press the seam allowance of the dart in a specific direction to help influence the silhouette. I think it was pressing towards the center. So you take all your seam allowance and press it towards the center, which helps clear up the side seams so it looks like it's a tighter fit around the side seams. At least that's what I've been able to gather from the research I've been doing. But yes. Then, once that is sewn, then I put on the back face into this. And yes, I am literally just assembling this like I did the bodice, simply because this was the only thing I was changing to the bodice. The rest of it is exactly the way that it is done in the instructions. So here I just matched up everything as best I could, and then again I stitched around that little edge that I have folded down, hold it in place, and then basted it around the other edges, because those will be sewn into the actual garment, the inside. So then here is me attaching the lining to the bodice, and it was rather easy to do. I just started by matching up the circle in the front, which helps give that sweetheart look, like sweetheart square neck look. And then I matched up the shoulder seams and just kind of eased everything together. I will say crinkle rayon fabric is not the most pleasant to work with as opposed to like a cotton, but it is really nice to wear and it looks lovely draped. This is a very lightweight fabric. I will have to wear a slip with this during the bright sunny days, during the spring doom and gloom of the Pacific Northwest. If you live in the Pacific Northwest, you know you understand what I'm saying. It is not as sheer because there isn't a light shine behind it, but during hot summer days I will probably have to wear a long slip with it, or a skirt slip. I am glad I lined the top because this gives me the less fear that it'll actually turn sheer. And I'm glad I was able to find this white cotton because it doesn't interfere with the coloration as much as such as like a black would have done. But that is a tale for another time. But yes, I just marked around the edge, and then I French seamed the skirt. If you're looking for how to French seam, I'd look up Angela Clayton. She does a really good job of explaining how to do it, and she does it in a lot of her videos. Basically, you sew the wrong side together using half your seam allowance, and I used 1/4 of an inch. Then you press it flat, then you press the seam allowance open, and then you spin the fabric so that it lines, so that you're now sewing with the right sides of the fabric together. Once you've sewn that, then you sew it in one direction or another, and you have a French seam. Basically, you're using the fabric to encase the fabric, or using the seam allowance to encase the fabric. Okay, for this part I was using pins to mark where the gathering points are, and trying not to pin to my instructions. And you just do a long basting stitch to that. I did French seam this fabric together, simply because I found it easier to do. The sleeves together. It helps to encase this fabric so that it doesn't. The other trick I have found doing hems is to stitch 1/4 of an inch, turn that in, and then mark up however far you want your hem allowance times 2. For this one, they want a 1-inch hem on this sleeve, so what I did was I marked 1 inch, 2 inches up from the 1/4 inch turned. If that makes sense. If not, feel free to comment down below and I'll try to explain it better. But yes, now setting in the sleeves. I do like how these sleeves turned out. I will be copying this sleeve pattern to add to my shirt pattern because in the next video that you will see, I will be doing a black and white flocked material that is, I stole this sleeve pattern because I like how it fits. It gives enough room for my upper arm muscles and etc. without being too cramped, and it has a nice puff at the top, which allows me to have a little bit of a girly moment, even on a plain blouse. Yes, that's about the changes I made. After that, I French seamed up the skirt. I put pockets in, I think. Maybe I didn't. Well, you'll see that at the end of the video, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you have any questions concerning it, feel free to leave them down below. I did try to show what I changed, as opposed to showing the whole process. If you like this version better, of me just showing what I change about a pattern when I'm trying a new one out, or in this case, redoing a pattern because I screwed it up the first time I did it and wanted a redemption round, feel free to leave that comment down below too. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I will see you all in the next video. Bye.